All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope that you are well. Tanse, my name is Michelle. I'm joining from Amiskwaci, Waskahigan, so Edmonton Treaty 6 territory. And I see that we are joined from people all across Turtle Island, from Victoria. Well, we got Alberta representing, Saskatchewan, Quebec, Ontario. So we welcome you all to this beautiful virtual family here with Can Do. We got links to learning happening today. And really excited for our guest speakers. We got Carmel and Marissa from CEDI coming to present to us, letting us know the ins of what's going on with what they're doing. But before we get started, let's just press pause. Maybe you want to plant 2 feet on the floor, take a deep breath. And just we want to offer that gratitude, that thanks to Creator for the gift of another day, that we're here able to meet in this virtual community, and that we can learn from one another. And so we give thanks to all of our relations, all of our relatives, the sacred waters, the animals, the plants, and the two-legged, so our chosen family, our biological family, all of our relations. Creator's so good to us, and giving these gifts of relationship. So hi Creator. All right, so before we jump into today's presentation, a couple of things. So there are 2 $100, and this is my favorite part, besides the prayer, to giving a shout out to Creator. This is my favorite part, telling you all that you have an opportunity to win. There's 2 of them. They're $100 Visa gift cards, and all you have to do is super easy, is fill out that evaluation link that's going to be sent to you after today's presentation. Along with, you're going to receive a copy of today's presentation as well. So fill out that evaluation, and your name will be entered in to win one of 2 $100 Visa gift cards. Woo woo! I love winning prizes. So all the best of luck to all of you. There will be an opportunity for any questions, dialogue at the end, but this is a little bit of a presentation that really is welcoming your voice along the way. So feel free. You're welcome here. Your voice, your thoughts, your questions are welcome in this space. So feel free to lend your voice, your story, to today's conversation. And what is today's conversation? It is tools for First Nation and municipal community economic development collaboration. We love collaboration around here. So today's session will highlight a few of CEDI tools and resources to support First Nations and municipalities to build sustainable partnerships, focusing mainly on the CEDI tool and templates. So creating a joint working group for First Nations and municipal partnerships. A joint working group is a wise practice that has supported many First Nation municipal partnerships to build relationships and advance collaborative planning and community economic development initiatives. Woohoo! So we're gonna learn all about that this afternoon. We got 2 lovely presenters. So I'm just gonna give a little shout out to both of them. So Marissa Lawrence, she is a senior program officer with CEDI in the Western region with Can Do. She has worked for Can Do since 2017. And so as a member of the CEDI team, she supports First Nations municipal partnerships across the country to establish respectable and equitable partnerships and to build capacity to engage in joint planning for community economic development and land use. She also holds a BA in communications and a minor in dialogue from Simon Fraser University. So that, this gal is stacked. I believe you can see the rest of her bio on the Can Do website. And now on to Carmel Nipus. Is from the Samson Cree First Nation of Maskwacis, Alberta. And there she gives a wave. She has a business administration accounting diploma from Northern Alberta Institute of Technology, aka NATE. She was previously employed with Samson Cree First Nation for the last 4 years, where she was a dedicated employee in the residential development department as a CMHC coordinator. She's very passionate, and we love passion, about helping her nation and nation members by providing the best resources for programs available. So for the last 2 years, Carmel was the special projects coordinator, where she oversaw the regional events before she was transferred into the role of certification coordinator. So she's looking forward to having the opportunity to work with many accomplished Indigenous economic development officers and land managers from across Canada. Awesome, awesome. All right, so ladies, we welcome you to this virtual community, and I'm passing the mic to you. So thank you for being here.
All right. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. I guess you just never know how dated your profiles are until you hear them out loud. So much has changed in the last couple of years. So first of all, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Can Do Links to Learning. And we are so happy to be here on behalf of the First Nation-municipal Community Economic Development Initiative, also known as CEDI. And I'm Carmel Nipus, and I am from Maskwacis, Alberta, which is located on Treaty 6. And I am now also the program assistant for the CEDI program. So not only am I doing that, I'm also the certification coordinator for Can Do. Now I'd like to ask my colleague Marissa to introduce herself.
Thanks, Carmel, and thank you, Michelle, for the warm welcome. I'm really happy to be here with everybody today. As Michelle said, my name is Marissa Lawrence. I have the great privilege of working on the CEDI program and with Can Do and all of my incredible colleagues there at Can Do. I'm coming to you today from the unceded and ancestral territories of the Sananas people, also known as Lantzville on Vancouver Island. So really delighted to be here. Thank you.
All right, perfect. So since 2013, Can Do and the Federation of Canadian Municipalities have co-designed and co-delivered the CEDI program. A little bit about who we are. We are two distinct organizations with unique culture, processes, and policies. While we differ in organization size, we each have a unique strengths that we bring to our partnerships. We are both membership-based organizations. Can Do's mandate is to support Indigenous communities, to build capacity in economic development, and FCM's mandate is to bring together Canadian municipalities to speak with one voice to influence federal policies and programs. Over the past 9 years of our partnership, we have learned a thing or two about working together as two unique and separate organizations. We share this with you because we think it is important for you to know what we practice is what we ask our partner First Nations and municipalities to do, to work together, to be stronger together. We have 1 hour here together today. So first we would like to provide you with a brief introduction to the CEDI program. Then we will provide you with an overview of our Stronger Together approach to First Nation municipal collaboration, followed by an introduction of some of our wise practice tools and resources, and most importantly, leaving time for questions and the opportunity for you to engage with the materials and share your experiences. Oh, jumped ahead right there. Okay. A little bit about who we have worked. I'm sorry, Marissa, we can go to the next slide. That's perfect. Yeah. A little bit about who we have worked with and where we have been. Beginning with the pilot in 2013, CEDI has now worked with 15 formal partnerships across the country over 2 phases. We are in the process of onboarding 8 new partnerships who will participate in phase 3 between 2022 and 2025. We have worked with a variety of partnerships from CEDI. Past CEDI partnerships have varied in number of partner communities per partnership, strength of relationship, geographical distances between partner communities, remote, rural, and urban partnerships, and economic development sectors and opportunities. The demand for the CEDI program remains high, including this current intake. We have received over 430 quality applications. Okay, the CEDI program operates with two main program goals: to support communities to establish sustainable and resilient relationships between elected officials, senior administrators, land management, and economic development staff, and the broader communities. And two, to increase the capacity of communities to engage in the develop joint long-term land use and community economic development plans and initiatives. When only one of these goals is prioritized, the partnership can be transactional and will not be sustainable over the long term. That is why these program goals are equally important. The first helps to establish a sustainable, respectful, and resilient relationship and a government-to-government partnership. And the second tests and builds the capacity of the partnership in an active and collaborative way. A little bit about the benefits of the First Nation municipal collaboration, as it has been shared with us from past partnerships. Although First Nations and municipalities operate under different legislation, jurisdictions, and governance models, First Nations and municipalities have the same vision to improve the lives of the members or citizens in their communities. When First Nations and municipalities team up with this shared goal, we see several mutual beneficial results emerge. Just like some of the points on the slide, a stronger united voice for engaging with businesses and other orders of government, cost savings and more efficient program delivery, and coordinated planning efforts to improve land use, land management, and environmental resource protection. Now I will hand it over to Marissa.
Thanks, Carmel. So I'll tell you a little bit about our CEDI Stronger Together approach. Since 2013, we've been co-developing this process in partnership with First Nation municipal partnerships and communities across the country. And I will say that while it is a linear approach here, it is definitely not that. It's cyclical. It's sort of evergreen. It's constantly being iterated on and changed and grown. So it is a four-stage community informed approach. And it really, again, we might map this out. We work with partnerships for over the course of 3 years. And so we might map it out that way. But we know that, again, it's cyclical, and we continue to come back to some of those foundational pieces like connect and vision. But in the first stage, what we call stage A, connect, that's really the opportunity where First Nations and municipalities meet. They begin to come together, engage in shared learning with and from each other. They challenge assumptions and expand their understanding. They identify some shared community economic development priorities and commit to establishing a partnership. Next, they move on to what we call stage B, vision. And this is really an opportunity for communities to continue to identify those areas of shared learning, start to talk about shared vision and values, how to engage their communities and engage communities in this partnership that's growing, and begin to collaboratively define what it is they want to work on together as either a joint land use planning initiative or joint community economic development initiative. Next, is stage C, decide. And this is really about deciding on a community economic development initiative. I'm sure we've all been in a position before where there's just lots of opportunities and collaboration is new and exciting, and you could go a million different ways. But it's really about defining and deciding something that actually meets the needs of your communities and is attainable. What's going to set you up for success? This is the first of many joint initiatives, hopefully, that your partnership will work on. So really deciding on that, creating strategic and work plans as needed to support that, identifying funding, and starting to build out governance structures that will allow you to collaboratively do this work over the long term. And finally, stage act. And I've been calling stage D act and adapt, because as we all known, the pandemic really shifted all of our priorities, I think, greatly. And it was another area where that gap, that jurisdictional gap, started to show itself between First Nations and municipalities. So it's not only just about acting and seeing those joint initiatives through, but knowing how to build resilient relationships so that when those hurdles arise, even when you have an established relationship, you have the tools to adapt and to continue that resilient relationship and resilient initiative forward. This obviously is that's a really fast overview of our Stronger Together process, but I really just want to acknowledge that we have a massive free for download document, our Stronger Together toolkit on both CANDO's website and on FCM's website. And you'd find this process outlined in greater detail there. It also offers a detailed step-by-step guide to initiate and strengthen First Nation municipal partnerships. It includes handouts, templates, workshop agendas, and other tools for implementing projects in your own community, as well as case studies that highlight other successful First Nation municipal partnerships who have been using and have succeeded with this Stronger Together approach. It's also really important for us to talk about how we understand joint community economic development. So obviously, I'm assuming you're all fairly likely with this idea of community economic development, or CED, but we've gone a little bit further to define what is joint CED in the context of First Nation and municipal partnerships. And so for us, it is a process by which community partners initiate and generate their own innovative solutions to their common economic problems. And this, by doing so together, builds that longer term community partnership and capacity. And it's a holistic approach, of course, being based in CED values. It integrates economic, social, and environmental objectives that should benefit members of both communities, ultimately building stronger economies and communities at the regional scale. We've also observed what we would call three main criteria for successful joint CED. And again, we've observed this from working with First Nation municipal partnerships across the country for many years. So there has to be an understanding in the partnership that there will at times be both direct and indirect economic benefit. So at times there might be more to the First Nation advantage and maybe next to the municipality. But again, looking at these as long-term partnerships. These are not transactional one-time interactions. So really building out that trust and long-term vision. They must be community-led. We know at the very heart of the work that we do that local knowledge is used for local solutions. We know that the communities that we work with have the solutions to the economic problems that they're experiencing. And as always, joint CED has to be grounded in long-term partnerships. Again, you've already heard us mention that a lot, and you'll continue to hear that. So I want to share, as Michelle had said in the introduction, we'll focus in on the working group quite substantially, but we're also going to pay a little bit of attention to shared learning, because I think that's a fairly accessible tool that we sometimes skim over. So we'll talk about shared learning and how to explore that. And we'll also talk about prioritization. So really identifying your shared values, capacity, resource availability. Again, not just selecting a project because one community's brought it to the table. Really identifying what is in this for both of our communities and how does it align with our community practices and priorities. So again, the working group is at the very basic level, a shared table for elected officials and senior staff representing First Nation and municipal communities, just to normalize meeting regularly, to share information and to engage in collaborative planning. The shared learning is a foundational component of relationship building. And it's really, the invitation there is to learn about legislation, governance, jurisdiction, economic development, and land management processes. And the third, like I say, is really there to identify those shared priorities. So I'm going to jump in and I'm going to introduce a little bit more detail about each one of these WISE practices. I will identify what other tools we have available to help you expand on your learning on each of these that you can find links to later on. And then I'm going to ask at the end of sort of introducing each one of those, if anybody has any experiences that they want to share that, that can help our shared learning here. This is not a one-way street, again, as you've heard us talk about. This is a collection of so many First Nations and municipalities providing us with just incredible insight over the years. And so the intention here is to continue to build upon that. So I'll ask for a little bit of input again coming up. So wise practice working group. Again, this is the thing. If I get a phone call and somebody said, we didn't get into the CEDI program, but we just don't know where to start, I will always, always say a working group. I can't tell you the impact of such a simple practice. You know, bringing together a group of both elected officials and staff on a monthly basis, you know, booking a standing meeting, a monthly meeting, same date, same time every month, helps to create sort of the normalcy of that meeting being in calendar. And it might feel like sometimes we don't have enough to talk about every month, but I promise you that you will. And I promise you that when you have that shared table and an issue arises or an opportunity arises, you don't have to look to find a meeting. You have a meeting and you can bring it to that table. And I know that that has helped a lot of communities with quick resolution or adapting or responding, you know, to those opportunities. So there is a really fulsome tool available on our website, and it's called Creating a Joint Working Group for First Nation-Municipal Partnerships. It comes with, we wanted to make sure that we also included some templates with that tool. So it comes with 3 templates. So terms of reference template, which I'll talk about in a second. Dialogue principles, really an opportunity to help to establish respectful communication norms, and a sample agenda for that first working group meeting or further the first or second working group meeting. So as you see there on the image, there's a lot of ways that this can look. We'll talk a little bit about that, but this working group is not meant to replace any level of decision making. It's supposed to be really collaborative to bring together, again, representation from both elected officials and staff from each partner community. This working group, again, as I've already mentioned, you know, it grows that government to government relationship. It identifies those shared opportunities, priorities, and initiatives. It's the place where you can, you know, develop those joint plans and oversee their implementation. It's an opportunity to capitalize on funding or development opportunities, as Carmel said. You know, First Nations and municipalities have different opportunities associated with funding, and really being able to lean into those and leverage those different sources of funding can be really incredible when you're working on joint initiatives. Coordinate communication activities and share community and regional information and opportunities. Often, you know, First Nations and municipalities will sit on different regional boards or councils or however that may look. And it is, again, that sort of shared space to come together. So again, we really do recommend that working groups are made up of both elected officials and staff, and that's for a number of reasons. We have turnover, we have staff change, we have elections. But again, having the elected officials there helps with the council buy-in and helps prioritize staff time on these joint initiatives when that is needed. The role of the working group, again, is really just there to guide. It's sort of the pillar of the partnership, and it helps to guide that partnership forward. This is not a decision-making body, but it is a place to, you know, to formalize how you want to be in relationship together, to ensure that that working group is informing elected councils and communities on the partnership evolution, and really ultimately are there to advance collaborative work on joint community economic development and land use planning. So, as I've mentioned, terms of reference, this may feel a little formal and it may feel like, is that really necessary? But I invite you to look at that template on our website, because it really, what it does is it creates a shared understanding of how your two communities can agree to work together with respect to the autonomy and the unique culture of each government and community. And this is so incredibly important because, you know, as we hear a lot, and I know that this is true, that, you know, we know full well First Nation communities, First Nation governments are their own autonomous sovereign nations, are communities who need governments who need to be recognized as such. They differ completely from municipalities and never should be compared as the same. And so really identifying those different levels of responsibility, jurisdiction, and decision-making is, you know, an incredible part of that, defining how to be in partnership together, and then, you know, and really making that concrete through terms of reference, so that when there is turnover in those positions, you know, there's opportunity to just hand the terms of reference and say, this is how we work together. You know, welcome to our group, and this is how we work together. It really, you know, provides the opportunity to clarify what's our mandate, who's the membership, what are the roles and responsibilities, how do we want to communicate together, What are our meeting procedures, decision-making and conflict resolution processes? And obviously there can include much more. This is needing to be tailored to your communities and your partnership. So a question for you, and I would love to just feel free to unmute. I can't quite see the whole screen, but maybe Michelle, you can help with this part. But folks, feel free to unmute and share. I would just love to know, have you had a positive experience with the First Nation municipal meeting structure? Maybe it was something like this, maybe it was something different, but what was it and what made it successful?
So if anyone wants to lend your voice to this conversation, to this question, feel free to unmute yourself. We would love to hear from you.
And that's all right, if not.
Hello, I just had a question. My name is Marcia Pinot from Quebec. Province of Quebec.
Hello.
And a reserve from Innu, Washadan, Maliotinam. I'm not gonna respond positive with experience with your question here, but I just had a question because in a council meetings, we always have a conflict of interest. Like even dealing with the employees because they're related to a member of the council or their brother or their sister to the elected official. Like, because I see your presentation is touching different things about the elected officials and the decision making. I have a question about the. Would you be able to provide the services in the province of Quebec?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your question, Marshall. Yes, we have provided. We have had Quebec-based partnerships in the past. We're currently rolling out a new partnership in Quebec who went through our application process and was accepted into the program. But we also know that we've not been in Quebec in the way that we would like to be. And so that means strengthening our resources, making sure that all of our information and our resources translated, making sure we have strong facilitators who are fluent in French, who are bilingual, who can really, do a really good job of this program. And so we're really building our capacity. We're a small, at this point, 4.5 person kind of team doing, rolling out a big program across the country. And so we're trying to really scale up to do this, to deliver it well. And so, yes, please continue to watch and stay engaged, Marshall, because I know that your community actually has applied to the program before and was shortlisted back in 2019. And so I know that we're going to be expanding our outreach in Quebec, and I'd love to stay in touch with you about that.
No, because our community speaks English and they're in the north of Quebec. Yes,
I'm aware of that. Yeah. So let's continue to stay in touch about that. But thank you for your question.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So I would also just maybe share, other structures that we've seen really work in time. Oh, I see somebody maybe turned on camera. Is there a question there?
My name is Brad Sinclair. Just listening to the presentation, and thanks for taking the time to give the presentation. But from a services representative perspective on the Indigenous relations side, I can definitely see alignment in the structure of the First Nation municipal meeting. I don't necessarily participate in those types of meetings, but I've been in meetings in the last 16 months with First Nation communities that I feel that are using this type of structure. And just by looking into the download of the CEDI toolkit, I see that Chief Roland Twin is in there and he's represented it through pictures. So I don't know if he's fully involved. I am born and raised in Slave Lake, and I seen Mayor Tyler Wyman is part there. So I can see some of the communications that I've been a part of from a services side of things in terms of looking at partnering with communities or even collaborating with communities is definitely something that is in aligned with I guess the last few slides.
Great. Well, thank you. And yeah.
Just going back to the last slide, Does anybody know Rudy Peranto in that picture?
Is that Rudy in the far right?
He's the bald guy. Laughing.
Oh, he's the bald guy.
That's
Yes.
Uncle Rudy.
Okay. That's from our Deneda First Nation and Town of High Level partnership in the last phase. Yeah, thanks for sharing, Brad. Yes, Chief Roland Twin and Mayor Warman were participated in phase 1 in our very first pilot of the program. So thank you. I will also just say, oh, there's Sarah. Please go ahead.
Hey guys, nice to see you. So I just had a question in terms of, hey Michelle. So I guess our community wasn't accepted, and I just wanted to see, so right now I was looking into economic development careers. I have also just looking into training, but I just wanted to ask what kind of things I could do on my level to get things started, that would speak out to you guys if you had more sponsorship to do another phase. Like, so I guess you had said earlier, maybe starting some meetings, like maybe bi-monthly meetings could be something, but was there anything else that you could suggest that we could do to prepare for a better application?
Oh, and Sarah, it wasn't a good application. We had such a tough time accepting partnerships.
Did you say 400?
To date. So this
Oh,
time
okay.
around, we had over 30 joint applications, and some of those applications included upwards of 7 applicants in each application. So yeah, the demand has remained really high. The next couple of slides, I'm going to talk about shared learning opportunities, Sarah, and let's follow up as well. Feel free to reach out, and I can send you some more, you know, I've got some more thoughts for you there. We can talk about that application specifically, but we can talk now about different shared learning opportunities that I think will also help progress that along. Okay, awesome. So I'll just say before I leave this slide, you know, we've seen council to council meetings work. We've seen, you know, project specific subcommittees work that might just be staff only. So lots of ways for this to look. You know, again, I'm rolling out this idea of a working group, but you have to shape it and make it work for your communities. So please just know that, you know, I'm giving one example, but there's, you know, a billion ways this could look. So as I had just said to Sarah, the next piece I really want to focus in on is shared learning. And again, I can't really stress enough the importance of shared learning and the impact that it has on relationship development. The reality is that usually, you know, two communities who either share borders or live, you know, in adjacent space or have, you know, municipality has been established in you know, territory, unceded or treaty, you know, probably only for 150, 200 years. But that relationship has often been strained. And usually most communities don't understand how the other operates. And so really, you know, the opportunity here is really to build that mutual understanding, respect, and trust. In doing so, really focused in learning and what we would call kind of foundational areas of learning. So really taking an approach of curiosity to learn about community planning processes, like, you know, what is out there? Is it a, you know, CCP? Is it an OCP? What are the difference between the two? You know, First Nations and municipalities will have different comprehensive community plans and official community plans. What's the differences? How are they used? What's the approach to community planning? The nation might have a you know, stronger engagement with membership. The municipality might have different ways of doing that. What are the economic development processes and priorities? Like, how do you do economic development in your community? What is even the jurisdiction? Municipalities are somewhat limited. They're there building, you know, an enabling environment for economic development, where nations, you know, will have, you know, all kinds of ways of engaging in economic development. Land use planning and management practices. Again, how does your community understand this idea of land management? How does that align with values and culture? Does it? You know, really getting curious about those processes, but also about the legislation around it and what, you know, what each community, how those processes work. Referral and procurement. This is increasingly an area where I think communities really have an opportunity to learn and identify maybe areas of overlap, specifically in procurement, as a number of municipalities are looking to expand their Indigenous procurement practices and policies. Of course, history and culture, so incredibly important to have space, like time for dialogue to share about that, to share about how each community understands their connection to place, and when appropriate for sharing in those ways. Governance, jurisdiction, and legislation. Those again are so different. And again, I will identify 3 tools here that I would suggest. All of these are free for download. So the first is the First Nation-municipal land use planning tool. It will be going through some upgrades in the next 6 months, so please watch for that updated tool. But it really starts to break apart the differences between First Nation and municipal land management, the jurisdiction, and the legislation that corresponds with that. First Nation, the next tool is First Nation Municipal Economic Development Organizations. This is really a tool that looks at the different kinds of economic development organizations, whether that be arm's length corporation, whether that's sort of a regional body that helps to look after economic development. So you name it, but it really starts to break that apart to learn more about the different ways and different areas of overlap for managing economic development. And the next one is the Stronger Together. This is a tool within the Stronger Together toolkit. So tool number 6 in that toolkit. And this is the First Nation municipal governance and legislation. And what it is, it's a really simple, table that really just invites First Nation and municipality to populate that table to share, this is how our community, this is our governance system. This is our election cycle. This is the legislation that we work within and work under. This is our jurisdiction on the following issues. These are the services we provide our communities. It's a place to really, get down some of that information to be able to share that more broadly with your, with your governments to help, engage in that learning process. So again, I take any questions if there are any about those shared learning tools. But I'd also just ask, if you have engaged in any learning with your neighboring First Nation or municipality, if so, what did you learn about? And if not, maybe you could identify one thing that you could see value in learning about together. So again, floor is open. All right, well, Sarah.
Oh, I was just saying thank you.
Oh,
Something weird happened there, sorry.
Well, good. I'll maybe just also add then, if there's no questions on this one or contributions to that question, there's just so many areas for learning. And I think, as you build relationships, the encouragement that we would really give you is to stay open to that learning, that this will be an ongoing process. And that's what I talk about when I say that process, that Stronger Together process, it's laid out as a linear process, but it's not, it's cyclical. You're going to come back, to that connect stage, that vision stage, because there's, even just thinking, there's so many different ways to learn about the different regional governments, tribal councils, how that, where there's overlapping jurisdiction. So stay open to those kinds of learnings. And I think that helps to also create areas of understanding where there is opportunity for collaboration. Janet.
Hi, I love what you're talking about. I haven't had any direct connection, but our mayor has. And in the Treaty 3, where I'm part of the Treaty 3 territory, there was a meeting where all of the chiefs were invited along with all the mayors, and this just happened recently. And it was an amazing opportunity. Our mayor is just so excited about the fact that all the things you're saying about Stronger Together and all the possible connections and opportunities. And so this has opened a dialogue, and I think everybody here in the Northwest is really excited about the potential. So I love what you're doing, and thanks for the tools.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's great to hear. And yeah, I think it's just, it's the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much there to dive into with all of our tools. So yeah, I hope you continue to do so. Thanks for sharing. Got a comment in the chat there.
In the chat box.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Are there any specific team building organizations you could suggest for this type of relationship building? It's a really good question. And again, I would always go back to the partnership and ask, what is really the right approach within the territory, within the region? Are there regionally specific or territorial specific, education resources? Indigenous corporate training has been one that we've seen a lot of partnerships pick up on. Specifically, that's tailored to municipal learning, but that can be a really good first step. And it's always the step that I recommend to municipalities. And I kind of say, like, get your own house in order before showing up to the table. Do some of that learning before you come to the table and you start asking your First Nation partner to teach you about the history of this place. So that's one place I would say, I would send municipalities first. A lot of our partner communities have chosen to do the blanket exercise. For some, that's been the right fit. And I think that's one of those ones that can be really tailored to regional context. There's a lot of regionally based facilitators, and they, might be the best fit for that, to tailor that work. And Sarah, I'll think a little bit more about that as well. But in my experience, it's really needed to be regionally based. Carmel, I see you chuckling.
It's just her comment in the chat box. I feel like a fun conference style weekend would be great first step for relationship building. And totally, you need to be in person to create these relationships.
Yeah, no, great point. Thanks for catching that, Carmel. Absolutely. I mean, we can make a little Can-Do plug there. Can-Do's annual conference is coming up in May. So there's a great chance to come in and chat with us and learn from others and bond together. Actually, that's something we see a lot of our CEDI partners do, is they'll come to attend the Can-Do conference, and they do say exactly that. Sarah, you're bang on. Just an incredible place. It creates a more casual environment, right? We move outside of the board table and we actually just get to spend some time together and share supper and that kind of thing. Okay, well, I will just quickly move us forward to the next piece. And this one, again, there's a lot of ways that you can start to identify, shared values, shared vision. But I'm really hesitant to give you, highly facilitated processes, because I don't think that that's really what everybody needs. I think you need, accessible tools to be able to do this work together around the table. And, it's really ultimately just so important that, partner First Nations and municipalities, that they feel confident in the joint initiatives that they've agreed to do, to work on together. Yes, I see that from Sarah. Yeah, Sarah's one of those outstanding young people that's just been a part of Can-Do, and yeah, I really just applaud you, Sarah. And so I will just say that, this is a really important process, but it doesn't have to be highly complex. It's really about, identifying the shared values and visions for your communities. And the exercise of co-creating prioritization or selection criteria can be kind of a partnership strengthening endeavor on its own. And what I mean by that is that if you're just there identifying what matters to your communities and what needs to be, what are the needs or what do you need to meet to be able to select a priority, you're, even by nature of that, you're going to start to understand where you have overlap and where you differ. And I really, this is incredibly important, because if an initiative is selected and it's not the right fit or it's out of alignment, again, that partnership is not going to be set up for success, right? There's going to be animosity, there could be friction, there could be issue, there could be feedback from community members or citizens. And so I really encourage communities to stop, to pause, to go through this process together, and not just take the most shiny, shiny one out there and say, yeah, this will do, but ground it so that when, and I say that to elected officials, like, so when your community members ask you, why did you select that? You can say, these are the reasons why. And it's grounded in our shared values. So that's, there's two tools that I'd suggest that you look to. Again, both are accessible in our Stronger Together toolkit. So tool number 12 and tool number 13. One is a joint SWOT exercise, so strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis. And the next is a prioritized joint set options. And that's a great table for you to look at. And again, you would populate it with your own community shared values, but it's a great template for you to work from. So again, I'm gonna, throw it open. I recognize we have about 12 minutes left. We have a couple more slides of just giving you, how to stay in touch and where to get further information. But I'll just basically at this point say, feel free to speak to this question or ask any question or share any comments that you have at all. Carmel and I would be happy to address those, but I'll just throw this one out there. What are the risks that what are the risks when we don't take the time to co-create this prioritization criteria or don't discuss our shared values for community economic development? So I'll leave that question out there, but again, welcome any other questions that you may have. Okay, well, I'll quickly summarize just a little bit more on how to reach us. Obviously, I think everybody here has accessed the Can-Do webpage before, but feel free to dig around in the CEDI pages and CEDI tools available. There's many more tools that I haven't mentioned here, tools and what we call knowledge products and resources. We try to collect a list of financial resources, and we try to update that every 6 months or so, but it's really just a list of resources that First Nations and municipalities can look to access, both either together or independently to help to enable this collaborative work. So search for that. We're really always trying to build our Facebook group and build the engagement on there. And so, search for us on Facebook. Just search for First Nation-municipal Collaboration Network, and we'd be happy to accept you into the group. We're not very active on Twitter these days as we are growing our team again, but sometimes you can find us there. And again, just look for those continued resources. And if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with either Carmel or myself. And as always, we have this survey, and this PowerPoint will all be made available after, but we're always keen to know, like, what do you want from us? What are the areas that you have questions that we can expand tools or what, do you have any insight about what you need from this kind of programming? We're really open and would love to hear from you. So with that, I'll stop sharing, and Michelle, over to you if there's any questions, or we go from there.
Awesome. Thanks, Marissa and Carmel, for your presentation. It sounds like you're offering tons of tools, resources, templates that people can tap into. So just make note of that. Again, this is going to be, this PowerPoint presentation is going to be sent to all of you. So you will have this at your fingertips. I think it's what you're talking about is really, really important. And it got me to think about, because I live here in Edmonton, and just seeing the relationship between Enoch First Nation and Edmonton, and I think it was Chief Billy Moran, and so I could be messing up this quote, so this is just a loose version, I think, of what he said. We've lived as communities next door to each other, but we haven't always been good neighbors to one another. And so our previous mayor, really him and Chief Billy Moore and the community really start to work intentionally and work on that relationship. I really think we're all about relationship. We're relational beings, and so to work on that and collaborate in partnership and do good things for all of the communities, the municipality, the Edmonton, and then the First Nation community itself. So I just was starting to think about that as well. So thank you so much for sharing. Does anyone have any questions before we move on for the rest of our day, or a story that you might have in relation to today's topic? So Zen, aka Ken, said, you mentioned CMHC, was that with a single unit or multiple unit dwellings?
Oh, so the CMHC thing was from just the prior position that I held with my First Nation years ago. I've been with Can-Do for 4 years, so this was way prior to then.
All right, so Carmel, we're going to update that little bio.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. We're just there. Okay, we got to thank you very much. So you gave us lots to think about. So Gloria is saying, thank you for the information and the views of other First Nations. It is a learning process in working with our neighbors for the betterment of our communities. So thank you. Great. Thanks for your thought there, Gloria. All right, and again, another great presentation. So you just gave us lots to think about and lots to vision. So, and again, we're going to tap into those tools and those resources that you are offering. I think that is most excellent. And you got a thumbs up from Janet. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Again, Marissa, Carmel, you press pause on your busy lives to just share what you're doing and what you have to offer. And again, it's all about making our communities stronger together and, you know, walking in a good and a healthy and prosperous way. So thank you so much. We just honor you, and everyone who's joined this afternoon, thank you for joining, and have a good rest of the Tuesday. And tomorrow is the full moon. I'm so excited. So, you know, connect to those good ceremonies, and the grandmother moon is out. So I hope you have a good rest of the day and a good rest of the week. So take care, everyone. Peace.
Yes, thank you all for joining us. And don't forget to register for our conference. It's open.